What's going on, everyone? So if you do not know me, my name is Tommy Martin. I'm a doctor at the University of Arkansas, currently pursuing a residency in Med-Peds, which is combined internal medicine and pediatrics. So in this video, what I want to talk to you guys about is something I have gotten asked 1,000 times, and that is, how much does medical school cost and what kind of debt do you get into by going to medical school? But before I get to that video, I want you guys to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine. Alright guys, so before I get into kind of the debt at St. George's University, which is where I went to, I'm going to quote some stuff from Credit Donkey. Not 100% sure how reliable it is, but the numbers seem pretty accurate, so let's talk about it. So it says that 75% of medical student graduates graduate with debt, which makes sense. So what is the average medical school debt? And this is just an average. This isn't international or US. This is just the average. And so the average medical graduate has $192,000 in medical school debt. Now that's not undergraduate, that's medical school debt. Okay, so the next one was how many students graduate with debt. We said that that's about 75% of students. How many students graduate medical school with more than $100,000 in student loans, and that is 83%. So a very large proportion of people will at least have $100,000 in debt. How many students graduate medical school with more than $200,000 in debt, and that average is 48%. So still a very large number. Almost half will graduate with at least $200,000, and then with $300,000 goes to about 14%. Okay, and so it says of all of this total debt, usually only about $20,000 to $25,000 could be from undergrad. And so we could just go on a couple other questions before I get into my debt. It says, how much does it cost to go to medical school? So it says the average cost for 1 year at school costs about $35,000 in-state public college. It costs on average $60,000 for an out-of-state public school, and then students who prefer a private college usually pay about $57,000. So all of these are U.S. schools, and so if you're in-state, it could be as low as $35,000. If you are out-of-state, it could be as high as $60,000. So, and that's per year. So you can take the averages of 35 times 4, that would be the low ballpark, and then you could take the averages of 60 times 4, that would be the higher ballpark if you go to a U.S. medical school. Okay, and then I'm not going to talk about these other questions that they have. So now we need to go to the international medical school system, which is much different than the U.S. system in that it costs more majority of the time. I can only necessarily speak for St. George's because that is the school I went to. And I'm not going to tell you guys my exact amount of debt, but what I will tell you is that Phoebe and I both did not have money to pay out of pocket for medical school. Our parents could not afford to pay for our medical school either. So all of our funding came through federal student loans. And if you are a U.S. citizen, then you can get federal student loans to help you with the cost of medical school. And now, not all foreign medical schools can you do that with, but St. George's is one which you can get U.S. federal government funding to attend. And so Phoebe and I took out student loans for the entirety of our cost. And at St. George's University, there are 5 terms, and so that means you have 5 kind of sessions that cost money, but I think they divide it up into semesters as well, so I cannot remember how exactly it works. And again, I'm just going to give you a ballpark average of what a St. George's medical student would come out of with debt. And so that could be anywhere from $350,000. And this is if you did not pay anything out of pocket to pay for your school. And again, this is ballpark. I do not know the exact stats. I would say that it's between $350,000 and $500,000 of medical school debt. And again, that might include about $20,000 to $40,000 of undergraduate debt. But so again, $350,000 to $500,000 in debt. Yeah, that's a lot of money. And so I get asked all the time, well, is it worth it? Should I still go to medical school? You know, if I'm going to come out, let's say worst case scenario, $500,000 in debt, should I even become a doctor? Well, I would challenge you that if you're asking that question, please do not become a doctor. Because I wouldn't want you to be my doctor. Like, I want a doctor that their sole purpose of being a doctor is to heal their patients or to be with their patients. That it's not about the paycheck, it's not about the pay grade. That I want a doctor that even if the pay continued to decrease, that they'd want to be a doctor. That they'd want to go into work every day, that they'd want to go through residency, work 100-hour work weeks for a very small paycheck because they love people that much. That's the kind of doctor I would want to serve me, and that's the kind of doctor I want to be. So if you're even asking that question, I ask that you do not become a doctor, because it is not about the money. Okay, so is it worth it to do? By all means, if you come out $500,000 in debt, but you get the privilege of being a doctor, by all means, it's worth it times 100. It's worth it times 1,000. It's worth it times whatever you can multiply it by, because you get the supreme privilege of caring for patients, of loving on patients, of being with patients at their hardest hour. Being with patients' loved ones and being part of some of their worst memories that they'll ever have when they lose a loved one. You get that supreme privilege of being a doctor, to go to work, to heal people, and to love on your patients with all of your heart every single day. Is it worth it? Times 1,000. There's no set amount that can match the privilege of being a doctor. So with all the medical school debt, with how little you may get paid, or whatever it may be, I can promise you, it is worth it. That first time that you have a patient tell you that you made a difference in their life, $500,000, $1 million, whatever it is, it's worth it. And I hope you guys agree and serve your patients in that exact way, regardless of the cost of medical school or how much you get paid. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I will have a video in the future about how to combat that large amount of debt and what are some ways to repay that debt. But for now, that's it. So I love you guys, and I want you to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine.